Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of the story, A Matter of Time. In the first part, we have already read something, and what was that? We read about two people sitting across the table having coffee, where one is suited up formally and the other one is wearing some shabby clothes. So, one of them is a narrator of our story. So, the old man offers something to the narrator, and what was that? That was a silver watch. Was he interested? No, the narrator was not interested at all in buying that watch. And then he adds up. He says, I hate the sight of watches. They started it all. And as soon as the old man mentions this, the narrator's interest is aroused. And he gets interested. All the attention shifts towards the story which this old man was going to narrate. And he says, the narrator mentions that he had half an hour before his appointment, so he was ready to listen to the story of the old man. And now the old man starts. Chris Selby. He was a theater agent and he was earning quite good money. But he could never resist the temptation of doing a little better. He could not stop himself to procure the chance, the opportunity to get more money. This shows greed. Alright, so this is what we have read. Let's continue. I'm reading on page number 86, so kindly open it up. It says, the whole thing took place. Who is continuing the dialogues? The old man. He says the whole thing took place just after the First World War. When did First World War happen? It began in July 1914 and it ended in November 1918. Remember these dates. These are important. So the whole thing, that means everything which happened, the events which happened, because of which he does not like watches at all, he says those events took place just after the First World War happened. This Chris Selby was a Prince Charming. That means people loved him. He was really attractive, with a smile that came off and on like summer lightning, a voice like butter and eggs when he wanted something from you, and poison if you got in the way of his 15%. But on the whole, few people did get in his way, and most liked him because they didn't really know him. So here in this stanza, he is giving the character of Chris Selby. He is introducing how his nature is. So he says that Chris Selby was a Prince Charming. Here he is using a metaphor for him where he's saying he's a Prince Charming. That means he looks really attractive. He's really good looking, like Prince Charming from Cinderella, the fairy tale. And he says he had a smile that came off and on like summer lightning. So this is a simile. It says like summer lightning. So when you are comparing using like, that is simile. So Chris Selby's smile is compared to the flash of a summer lightning because it has a great speed. So it comes and goes quickly. So his smile has been compared to the summer lightning. And then his voice, the tone in which he speaks to others is like butter and eggs. Again, simile has been used here, where he says that he flattens other people. The way he speaks to other people, he uses flattery to impress other people. So he speaks so softly, he speaks so politely that people get impressed. So his voice is like butter and eggs. When he wanted something from you, if he wants something from you, he will talk to you with utmost politeness. And poison if you get in the way of his 15%. So he used to work on this commission of 15% because he was an agent. So whatever work he was providing to the actors, he used to get 15% from that money. So if you get in his way, that means if you are a barrier in the way of his commission, then he will not be behaving in a good way with you. He will be a poison. He would try to get you off the track. But on the whole, that means overall, few people did get in his way. That means few people knew how he was, but most of the people liked him because they did not really know him. They did not spend much time with him, so everybody thought that Chris Selby is a really nice man. Okay, so I hope if a question comes to describe Chris Selby, you must be able to do it with the help of this paragraph. Okay, Moving on, he used to make 5 or 6 trips a year to Paris. I hope you know where Paris is. Yes, capital of France. So he used to make 5 or 6 trips a year to Paris on business, picking up acts and vaudeville turns, trying out his smile along the Champs-Élysées, and never having to count his francs to see if he had enough for another fancy meal. So, what did he used to do for earning money? He used to make 5 or 6 trips a year to Paris because of business purpose. And what was that purpose? He used to arrange acts, the theatrical acts. Vaudeville is the type of theatrical entertainment which consists of performances like dance and song. There are animal stunts like a circus. There are short comedy acts, then juggling, magical acts. So these shows traveled all over the country providing entertainment to all the people, and they were extremely popular in North America for several decades. That means for a lot many years the vaudeville acts were really famous because it consisted of all the kind of musical acts, the magical acts and the comedy acts as well. So he was involved into these acts. He used to arrange these kind of acts and trying out his smile. He had a great smile. Yes, we have just learnt it here. He had a smile like that of a Prince Charming. So he had a great smile. So he used to use that smile along the Champs-Élysées. Now you must be wondering, why am I pronouncing it as Champs-Élysées? It's written Champs. But look at here. Food for thought. It says Champs-Élysées, which is pronounced as, that is why I'm pronouncing it like this. Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées is a major avenue in Paris. That means it's a major road, it's a major street. Avenue is a street. It is the site of Élysée Palace and government offices. That means it is the place where Élysée Palace is situated, and there are some certain government offices as well. It is famous for its cafes, shops and theaters. So Champs-Élysées is the street where he used to arrange these acts, and he would never have to count on his francs. That means he never used to worry about enough money so that he can go and eat up in a good restaurant. Twice a year he would take his car over. He always went to Dover and Calais and back that way, and most of the customs boys knew him and liked him because of a 10-minute acquaintance 5 or 6 times a year. He was the kind of a man anyone would like. So twice a year he would go on a different route with his car. He always went to Dover and Calais and back that way. These are the two cities. Okay. So he used to go here and he used to come back the same way. And most of the customs boys, I told you in the first video what is customs. So most of the customs boys knew him and liked him very much because they used to meet him only for a 10-minute time. And that was for 5 to 6 times a year and a 10-minute acquaintance. It was a 10-minute friendship which was 5 or 6 times a year. So they liked him very much. He was the kind of a man anyone would like. So the old man here mentions that Chris Selby had this personality that if you meet him for less time, you would be really fond of him because he left that charm upon you. Also, he was generous with complimentary tickets for London shows. So this is the added reason why people used to like him in the customs, because whenever he used to visit and cross through the customs, he used to pass them complimentary tickets. That means free tickets for the London shows, for his acts. The truth was that except the 2 trips each year, very important, you must underline this, there was never any need for trouble because he never tried to get away with anything. And the truth is that except for the 2 trips each year, he used to go to Paris 5 or 6 times a year. We have just read it in the second paragraph on this page. And out of those 5 or 6 trips, 2 trips were on a different route. So the truth was that except for those 2 trips, he did not have to worry about anything. He was free to go. But when the car went over, that means when the car used to travel between Dover to Calais, that was different. It was a different route for him. Why? Why did he behave differently? Twice a year, he would bring back about 5,000 watches each time, carrying 5,000 watches from another city. I know it sounds a lot, but it's surprising how many watches you can pack into a car, particularly if your 12-gallon tank only holds 2 gallons of petrol and the rest watches, and the floor of the car is a false one. So carrying 5,000 watches is a lot. But it's surprising how many watches you can pack into a car, particularly if your 12-gallon tank, that's the capacity of the tank, the fuel tank, it only holds 2 gallons of petrol. The amount of petrol that was filled in was only 2 gallons out of the 12-gallon capacity, and the rest watches. That means in the 12-gallon tank, 2 liters of petrol. Along with that, watches were packed inside the fuel tank, and the floor of the car was a false one. The floor of the car was set up in such a way so that he can hide those watches under the floor, the false floor. He used to put up a table or a compartment he used to make in the car, which would make a false floor. Of course, it means filling up with petrol pretty often on the run. And what does this mean? If he is only filling up the car with 2 gallons of petrol, he would have to stop frequently to get up the petrol filled. But no one minds that if the total profit on each trip touches the 1,000-pound mark. So getting petrol filled up again and again, that would be costly. But for him, it did not matter. Why? Because on each trip in which he was bringing those 5,000 watches, so on each trip he was making a minimum of 1,000-pound mark, 1,000-pound profit. So approximately, if I would round it up, it would be 1 lakh according to if you compare the value of the pound and rupees in today's day, it would be around 1 lakh. That's a lot of money, right? If you or I tried anything like that, we would be as nervous as kittens with a duck for a foster mother. And he takes a jibe, that means he makes fun of all the other people, and he says that if you or I would try something like this, that means carrying all these watches illegally, because so he says that if you or I would try something like that, we would be as nervous as kittens with a duck for a foster mother. Duck will be worried all the time that the kittens might attack on the duck, right? So he says that if you or I would try anything like that, then we would be as nervous as kittens with a duck for a foster mother. But not Chris Selby. He says, but Chris Selby was not at all nervous, even if he was involved into anything illegal. A theatrical agency is pretty good training in putting up a good front. That means it gives you a good training in pretending, which is something which is not true, in showing up, in putting up a good show to hide something. He never felt nervous, and he knew his stuff. That means he was never nervous about anything. He knew how to behave and how to carry himself if he is on that twice-a-year trip. The customs boys seldom give a car a rummage unless they have had a tip-off or one of their investigators has picked up a lead. And he says the customs boys rarely, seldom means कभी बहुत ही कम, occasionally बहुत ही कम ऐसा होता था कि जो customs के boys थे वो कार को check करें कि यहाँ से क्या जा रहा है, from one city to the other, what is going on, what things are being packed up in the car, what all the passengers are carrying with them. So it was seldom, it was very rare that it would happen unless they have had a tip off or one of their investigators have a lead. That means somebody have told them that you need to watch this car, so and so number. So they did not rummage, that means they did not search any car until unless they had some tip, they had any lead or idea about a car having some illegal goods. But a man going over in November and July on legitimate business and with high-powered personality of Chris Selby had nothing to worry about. But a man who is going over, that means who is going to Dover and Calais in November and July, that means in these 2 months he used to visit on legitimate business. That means which is accepted by law. For them, he was coming for his theater acts. And with high powered personality, he had a great personality, he had a charming personality, and everybody liked him. So he had nothing to worry about, even if he was carrying those 5,000 watches in his car, and out of which some of them were packed up in his petrol tank. He did not worry at all because he knew how to act, he knew how to pretend to be confident in order to hide his nervousness. He knew how to do that. So he was never nervous whenever he was going over to Dover and then coming back carrying those 5,000 watches. I hope you must have understood till here. Alright, I will be continuing with the next page in the next video lesson. Watch the first as well as the second part carefully so that you understand and you're able to lead and follow whatever is happening in the story. Alright.